Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, over at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk here in Gorebridge in Scotland, the capital of the world, the solar system, the Milky Way, and probably the universe. But that's just my personal opinion. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm not sure how many people are here, but I'm going to go check. We've got about 12 people here, which is not bad at all. Let me just move the mic in just a hair. There we go. So that I'm a little bit louder. I hope everybody has had a great week. Been a good week for me. Not been too busy. But yeah, it's been a good one. And the weather here is starting to get nice, starting to get warm. Starting to have sunshine out, which is nice, and the week ahead is set to be absolutely gorgeous. And then we're supposed to get some spectacular thunderstorms at the end of the week, which is cool. Looking forward to that. So, hope everyone is doing well. We got a good lot of chat going on here. And Mike at Peace Valley Audio actually has the first question, which I pinned to the top so that I wouldn't miss it. But it looks like Billy Morgan was once again first in the door, followed by my friend Rich, who is now calling himself My Personas, which is hilarious. And then there's Mike's question. Then there's Kevin from Kevin's Guitar Stories is here. Bob is here. Ronald Figura is here. Let's see who else is here. Larry O'Connor says hello from Denver. Hello from Gorebridge, my friend. Mike at Music to Motion is here. Who else is here? Paul Morgan is here. And DDT Entertainment is here, which is fantastic. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well, mate. And Don Oliver is here. Andrew Lamb is also here from Tasmania, down in the area of Australia, just off the coast of Australia, Tasmania is. I have never been to Tasmania, but I have relatives that are from. I have friends actually in several different parts of Australia. And I have family in Western Australia, and I have family in Queensland as well, which is pretty awesome. Although I've never been, I've always been promising myself that one day I would get over to Australia for the Ashes series. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, not been able to do it yet because it's phenomenally expensive to travel to Australia. But one day I will. One day, one day I will. One day I'll make it. Rich says there's a reason for that all to be revealed soon. Awesome, very cool. Rich, you and I will have to get together offline, my friend. And we can talk, because that would be very cool. All right, so let's get to the questions, and so that we can make the most of tonight, because Mike actually has two questions. He asked one question of me earlier today in a private message conversation, plus the one he's asked here as well. So I may as well kill two stones with one bird. No, two birds with one stone. And and see if we can tackle both of those questions. And then, of course, there is Ronald's question as well that I want to get to. But if you have any questions regarding Studio One, Personas products, composing, arranging, basic music making, music theory, any questions on harmony, melody, and that kind of stuff, get them into the chat, and I will do my level best to answer your questions. So, Mike's question, let's go. Don Oliver asks if you have been to the States. Yes, I have family in Chicago and in Virginia as well. So, yes, and down in South Carolina as well. So, yes, I have been to the United States many, many, many times. I'm pretty much a frequent flyer and a frequent traveler to the United States. Most people, it would seem, at Chicago O'Hare, when you go through customs and all of that, they seem to know me by first name terms, which is a little bit spooky. But I guess, you know, I have been there so many times that yeah. I guess I get to see the same people every time, which is a little bit weird. And they ask me the same standard questions, of course, and they always have difficulty understanding my accent, which is why whenever, this is the thing I've learned, especially with doing live streams and videos and stuff like I do on this channel, I have learned to tone down the accent a wee bit, because if I don't, then people don't understand, especially people in America don't understand what I'm saying. So I tone it down quite a wee bit, like I am doing now. I will not demonstrate what it's like because it will be fruitless. You won't understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's see. What is Mike on about in our private chat? I'm not sure. Anyway, let's get to his question, and we will see where we go tonight. Let's go and let me unpin that. And let's see. Here it is. All right. So, Mike says, maybe you could explain the difference between the blue and yellow send options when using time-based effects. So that would be things like reverb and delays, and what the difference colors of the sends are, what they are for. So we can definitely do that. Give me 1 minute and we'll get Studio One open. There we go. All right, so we are over in Studio One, and I've just realized you guys can't see my pretty little mug. Maybe you don't want to see my face. Do you not want to see my face? And I can put myself in the picture. That's easy enough. There we go. All right, so as you can see in this song here, all of these sends are blue, which basically means post fader send. If I hover over it here, you can see that there's, at the end, there's a little button here. It's not very easy to see, and it says pre-fader on off. Now watch what happens if I turn it on. If I turn it on, it goes this orange-yellow color. And if I hover over it, it now says pre-fader send level. All right, now if I go and turn this one off, and now it just says send level. All right, so the send level by default in Studio One is post fader, which means before the copy gets sent from this channel here to the solo effects bus, it goes through all the inserts and it goes past this fader. Then the copy gets sent. So the copy gets sent after this fader level, which means if I adjust this fader level, it will also adjust kind of what's going out to the send as well. Now, there are circumstances where you would want to use a pre-fader send, and that would be, for example, if you're doing any side chaining. So if you were side chaining the, let's say, the bass to the kick drum in a more EDM or dance music context, or even in a rock disco context where you've got that 4 to the floor, and that kick drum is really, really important for the pulse of the music. And you want to get the bass a little bit out of the way, and you want to make sure that that kick comes through and is nice and prominent. Well, you can sidechain a compressor so that every time the kick hits, it turns the bass down. And you'd want to do a pre-fader send to do that, so that whatever you do mixing-wise with the balance between the kick and the bass, in terms of volume, the signal is always going to go straight over to the compressor on the bass rather than after the fader. So regardless of what the fader is doing, even if you have the fader turned all the way down so you don't hear the kick, it will still trigger the compressor on the bass. And that's really, really useful, particularly for dance music and EDM. So, but in this particular case with this song, it's not necessary, which is why there are no pre-fader sends here. If I go all the way over to my bus channels, you can see there's no pre-fader sends anywhere in this. But that's what a pre-fader send does. When it's that orangey yellow color, it means the pre-fader send is engaged, and it means that the copy is being sent before it hits the fader. So the fader volume level has no bearing on it, but this send level does. So you can set this to 0 dB, for example, so that you're sending a full level copy of the audio from one place to another. And regardless of what you do with the fader balancing, it will always send that volume. So that's essentially what that is, and that's how that works. So I hope that that helps. But the other question that Mike had was to do with reverbs and delays, and kind of a good way to make sure that you don't get a lot of build-up in your mix. Quite often, I have people say to me, hey, I've got this mix, but there just seems to be a build-up of low mids, and I cannot find it anywhere. I have gone and I've soloed every channel, and I cannot find it anywhere in my mix. Where is this coming from? Where is this build-up? I can't find it. And here is where it probably is. It's probably in your reverbs and your delays. And if you've got a lot of different instruments like I have here for this room reverb, you can see if I click here, you can see I have a lot of different channels going to this one reverb. Now, that could mean that this reverb could get very, very muddy. And you could get a buildup of low mids and low end in this reverb channel. And so what's the solution to that? The solution is to filter those frequencies out of the reverb. You can either do this before the reverb or after the reverb. Doesn't really matter. I have it after the reverb, but you could do it either way. It doesn't really matter. So what do we need to do? What we need to do is we need to filter out the low end using a high pass filter. And if you find also that the reverb is just too bright, it's too bright, too squeaky in your mix, and you go, you know what, this extra sizzle, and I can't find where that is. Same kind of thing applies. Just go in and stick a low pass filter or a high cut filter and just shave it off. And you can be really quite aggressive. Like here I've rolled off anything below 219. So anything below 219 is filtered out of this reverb. Anything above 4K is now filtered out of this reverb. So after the reverb, it goes through this EQ filter, and then it goes to the main. And this just cleans up all of those low mid buildups, and maybe even some extra sizzle in your mix that you don't want and you don't need. So I do this all the time. As you can see here on this beat delay here, I've got another one. And then I've got another one here. This one's a little bit higher up. And by doing that, you clear out all of that low end that's coming into your reverbs and your delays. And if you are somebody that uses multiple reverbs and multiple delays, which is something I do, I will have several reverbs. Sometimes I'll have those reverbs going into reverbs, or I'll have delays going into reverbs. That's something I do quite a bit. I'm not doing it on this particular song, but it is something that I frequently do. Is I will frequently have a delay going into a reverb. So maybe a dotted eighth note or a dotted quarter note delay, depending upon the tempo and the vibe of the song. I will have that being sent to maybe on a pre-fader, probably quite likely on a pre-fader send to a reverb. And again, the thing I'm doing is I'm filtering out the lows and the highs from both of those. And that way it just means that all I'm getting really is mid-range into those effects. because you don't need the low information. You just don't need it. And you probably don't need a whole lot of highs. You can have some, but if it starts building up, start filtering it out. And you will find that you will still get the fullness of the effect that you want, which is the reverb, and you'll still get the fullness of the delay, and it will still have the effect that you want hourly to your ears and to the listener's ears. It will still work. It will just be a lot cleaner, a bit thinner, perhaps. Like if you were to solo these reverbs, you would find, and these delays, you'd find that they're actually really thin, but that doesn't matter. You don't need the low end coming into your reverb, unless you have a particular effect. For example, you have a kick drum that you want to just explode and have this big boom, then yes, you will want low end in that reverb, but otherwise, you don't need it. Filter it out, and that will hopefully resolve your problem for the most part. If you have low end buildup. Now, I used to be a big believer, I'm not so much anymore, but I used to be a big believer in high pass filtering pretty much everything that's not a low pitched sound. I don't recall where I got that idea from. I think a few people said, hey, you need to high pass filter everything that's not a low instrument so you can make sure there's plenty of room for your low instruments like your bass, your kick drum, your bassoons, your tubas, or whatever. And I'm not quite such a big believer in that anymore, because I found that I tended to make the gap between low and everything else too big. So it's not that that the mix would be thin exactly. It's that what I would end up with is I'd end up with the mix being unbalanced, and there would be this dichotomy between low end instruments and everything else, and it just wouldn't sound good. So if the kick drum or the bass guitar dropped out, the floor of the whole mix would fall apart. The mix would just sound thin. It would sound like it was in a tin can. And so I don't quite do that so much anymore. If I really need to get some low instruments out of the way of everything else, I will sidechain for the most part, or I will just balance things better. Sidechaining is great. Sidechaining is essential for certain styles of music, and for certain others, it's not really. But you can still use it to kind of solve a problem in a flash if you need to. But otherwise, the best solution really is just to try and achieve a better balance in your mix, so that your mix is nice and well-rounded in every department. Okay, what's going on here? I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, let's not argue in the chat, please. I'm not quite sure what happened. Okay. Mike says, what the heck? I'm like 20 minutes behind you all. Stream didn't start for me. Oh, that's weird. I don't think I've ever come across that before. Okay. Yeah, let's just be a little bit careful with with hiding people. I'm sure that was an accident that you didn't mean to, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. All right, continuing on. Mike, my good friend at Peace Valley Audio, I hope that answers your question. If for some reason you didn't hear the answer, it's fine. Catch it on the replay. I hope I dealt with that for you. But just in case, Mike says, I had to restart my browser again. I don't know what is going on. Okay, not a problem. So just to quickly review, because I don't want to take up too much time, going back to these sends, let's just go back over here, because there's plenty of different send options here. These blue lines are, it says send level here. Now what that means is that by default, Studio One does post-fader sends. That means that the copy being sent from this channel to its destination, which is the solo effects channel, it goes after this fader. So if I was to adjust this fader, turn it down, turn it all the way down, then it would affect what's being sent. However, if I was to click on this button here where it says pre-fader on off, and I turn that on, that now becomes yellow. Now notice what it says. It says pre-fader send level. So this is the level of send of the whatever it is in this channel. In this case, it's a solo flute. So this is the level now being sent before it hits this fader to the effects channel, which means I can turn this all the way down and the copy will still be sent. It will still be sent at this level, which is minus 24.9 dB, to the beat delay. So I can turn this all the way down and you'll still hear the effect. You'll hear actually the flute in that effects channel. And it will just sound weird. It will sound really ghostly, actually. And if that's the effect you want, then you can certainly do that. That would be actually a reasonably good application of pre-fader sends. But as I said, the most common application of pre-fader sends is when you want to do some sidechaining. So maybe if you want to duck a reverb or a delay out of the vocal so that the reverb and the delay only comes up on the tail of the vocal performance, then you can do that by sidechaining a compressor to the delay. So you would send you do a pre-fader send, and then you put the compressor before the delay. The compressor is triggered by the vocal. When the vocals, when audio comes on the vocal channel, then it would duck. It would trigger the compressor. The compressor would duck the delay out of the way and then release it when the vocal is not singing, and you'd get the tail of the effect. So, oh, Mike just says he lost his internet. Oh my gosh, sorry to hear that, mate. You'll catch up. You'll catch up. You'll be fine. All right. So, moving swiftly on. We got any more questions? Yes, we do. We have Ronald's question. So let's get to Ronald's question. Hang on, let me get back over here. Ronald says, how can I migrate all my previous song saves currently in a folder on the desktop to my new 2 terabyte external drive, MacBook Pro 2005 High Sierra? High Sierra is an old OS, that is for sure. However, the important thing you need to remember is that your Studio One song has reference material in order for it to work. So when you create a new song, it creates a new folder in that location, wherever you have the user location set to. And basically everything that is inside that folder needs to go to your new hard drive. Now, I have moved from one computer to another computer to another computer. And what I did was I copied my root songs folder that contains everything. It contains all my songs and all the individual folders for those songs. Now, each song has its own folder, and within that folder is the song executable file, which is the .song file. But it also has a media folder. It has a folder for the images, which is the waveforms. It also has a whole bunch of other things like any bounces that you've done, any mixdowns that you've done, any associated related material that your song needs in order for it to work is in that folder. Sometimes there are 4 or 5 folders within that song's folder. So all of those song folders should be in a songs folder, which is kind of like your master, your top level songs folder. What you'll need to do is you'll need to copy that folder to your new location, and then you'll need to set Studio One so that it is looking at that songs folder. So then when you open your song, the session opens up and all of the waveforms draw, all of the pool, all of the stuff that's in the pool is there, and all of the other reference material is pulled into the song, and the song works, and you don't get any missing files error messages. This is where a lot of people go wrong, particularly if they're trying to send a song to somebody else. They'll think, oh, I just send the .song file. No, if you send just the .song file, Studio One just goes, I don't know where all this stuff is. I can't make this work. So you then get error messages that say all of these files are missing, all of these folders are missing, all of this data is missing, and Studio One can't run the song without that data. It's expecting to find that data. So when you are sending a song to somebody else, you need to send them the whole folder for that song. So that song has the Studio One song file, and as I said, the media folder, and all the other folders that are in it, in order for it to be able to reference the correct files, the correct stuff, so that everything that you need in the song is there. Say you've got some loops, for example. Make sure those are copied. It's really important, actually. Let me just show you this, actually, because I think this is really important. If you go to Studio One Options, then you go Locations, make sure this box here is checked. Ask to copy external files when saving document. What this means is when you save a Studio One song, you will get if you have this checked, you'll get a pop-up box that says, do you want to copy, and it will list some external files. Do you want to copy these into the song folder? And you'll just say yes. You don't even need to read what it says. Just hit yes. And what that will do is any loops that you've used in the song, any external files from somewhere else that you pulled into the song, all of those will need to be saved to that media folder within the song. Otherwise, when you send that song to somebody else, they will not appear. And your person that you're collaborating with will say, hey, I'm getting all of these error messages that say that there are missing files. You don't want that to happen. So it's important that you have this checked. You do a save, so Control S or Command S to save the song, and all of those files, when you click yes on that dialog box, all of those files will get immediately copied from the pool into the media folder, and then when you send them the song folder, which contains the media folder, they'll get everything that they need. So if you're using loops from an external source like Looploft, or you're using one of the Studio One loops, or you're using loops from PreSonus, bounce those. I think that's important to do. Just bounce them, because the person who is going to be receiving your song may not have those loops. They may not have access to those loop libraries, in which case they'll get missing file errors as well. So just bounce those. Bounce those to stereo audio, and then save the song, copy the external files, and then you can zip up the song folder and you can send that with absolute confidence and know that your recipient is going to get everything that they need. So that's a really important thing to be aware of, so that you don't get error messages like that. Oh, 2015. Okay, that's fine. Ronald says the folder on the desktop is called Songs, so copy that to the 2 terabyte hard drive, correct? Make sure that that Songs folder has all of your songs folders in it. If it has all of your songs folders in it, then you can send that with confidence to your external drive. Just make sure that those songs have everything that they need. Make sure that they have the media folder and everything else in it. Let me just pull up a particular song of mine, and I can show you exactly what I mean. So let's go, and I'm just going to pull up something relatively reg. Okay, so let's bring this over here. All right, so I've got a folder on the screen here. See, it says 80s funk. There are some bounces that I use. There's a cache folder, there's history, there's stems, and there's the 80s funk.song. This is the song file, and this file is referencing material in all of these folders here. If I send just this, then whomever I'm sending it to will get these error messages. And if you are moving this to an external drive, when you open the song, you'll get error messages for missing files. So make sure that when you go to the root songs folder, that all of your songs, a lot of these, as you can see, don't have titles because I do an awful lot of testing for various things. Make sure that all of these, like this one here, make sure they have their folders. Some of them will have bounces folders, some will have a cache folder. In fact, they all should have a cache folder. And some of them will have a history folder. They'll all have different ones. Let me see if I can find one. Let's try this one. Yeah, see this one? This one's got a media folder. So this has got some loops that I used to create this particular song. And so yeah, you'll need to make sure that this folder for this song here, Latin Cool Vibe, has everything it needs in it, and your songs folder has all of your song folders in it. I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of songs. Okay, so really important that you do that. All right, so hopefully that answers that question. Peter Brooks says, I do not have a sound card in my PC. I use a MIDI audio interface only. Okay. I create a piece of music in Studio One and it sounds good. I then listen to it on Windows and it sounds flat, not like it was in Studio One. That's an interesting question. And the reason why it's an interesting question is because if you say you're listening to it on Windows, but what sound card is Windows playing through? If the only interface you have is a MIDI interface, then how is the audio for Windows being played? Is it going through the built-in sound card? So you might have something like a Realtek that is built into your computer. Is it going through that sound card? Or is it, or you know, do you have some other interface that audio is going through? So that would be a question that you'll need to look at. And you'll need to look at kind of, here's the thing with built-in sound cards, particularly ones that are made for Windows, is they tend to contain a whole bunch of rubbish, to be honest. They're not very good sound cards because they're not designed for, you know, the kind of audio that we're dealing with here with the DAW. They have all sorts of EQ, they have all sorts of added effects, and all sorts of other stuff that you just don't need and you don't want. Because, you know, those sound cards, they're designed just for general media purposes, like playing a YouTube video or watching a DVD. They're not really designed for dealing with the kind of audio that you're dealing with. The other thing to bear in mind is kind of what sounds are you using? Are you using the sounds from Presence and Mighty and all of that built in to Studio One, or are you using general MIDI sounds? General MIDI sounds, by and large, they sound a little bit late 80s because, let's face it, the MIDI spec has not been updated since about 1996, and I think the MIDI spec, when it was updated in 1996, did not include an overhaul of GM. It just didn't. So only through the interface. Okay, so, yeah, that's the part that I'm not really understanding. If you're, what interface is it that you're referring to, Peter? That'll help. Mike at Music Motion says, could it be you have different sound settings in Studio One that you have in Windows? Yes, that's probably where it is. Make sure you have the same yes, make sure you have the same sample rate for both. So if you have your Studio One song set at 44.1, make sure your Windows sound card is set to 44.1. You know, kind of stuff like that will help for sure. Yeah, I hate Realtek as well. Yeah, Realtek are pretty bad, to be honest. Because they're just pretty cheaply made, and they're designed really just for being able to play a music track or being able to play a movie soundtrack. That's about it. That's all they're designed for. So don't, you know, really expect a whole lot more out of those. Rich says you can quickly skip back on the stream in real time, then click on live to get back to the live stream if needed. There you go. But yeah, Mike at Peace Valley Audio, it sounds like he's having some internet problems, which we can't really help him with, unfortunately. Alrighty. Let's see what else we have. I'm just trying to figure out why on earth a whole bunch of Billy's messages have been deleted. I guess that might have been done by mistake, but that's okay. It happens. Billy Morgan, if you're still here, please write in the chat if you're still here and you're able to, because I think you were accidentally hidden on the channel. So yeah, just please do let me know that you're still watching the show and you're still able to chat. And I'm sorry that happened. I'm absolutely 100% certain that was done by mistake. Not to worry. All right, we got any more questions? We got about 15 minutes left here. I would definitely like to get some more questions. Oh, good, you're here. Excellent. Fantastic. So if anyone else has any more Studio One questions, let's get them in. Okay, just Bob with a good question. He says, do any of the stock VST reverbs have any settings to clean out lows and highs? The room reverb doesn't, but the open air does. Let me see. Room reverb. So as you see here, the room reverb, it doesn't have a high pass filter or anything like that, unfortunately. So certainly with this guy, you're gonna have to put up with that, unfortunately. However, if we go over to effects, and if we go down to the PreSonus effects, and if we go and get open reverb, what's it called? Where is it? Open air, that's what it's called. Open air. Let's go and grab open air, and we'll just slap this on something inappropriate. We'll stick it on this guitar. As you can see here, there is an EQ, which is very, very handy. So you've got a shelf at the top and the bottom, and then you've got some bell curves here. But there's no actual filter. So seeing as it is a shelf, you would just have to dial this to your particular frequency of choice, which is 120, and then just dial down the gain. So, like, for example, that to roll off below 120, and I can shove that up to 227, and then I can dial that back there, and I can roll that back to about there, for example. So then that would basically do the same thing. It's a shelf, it's not a filter. but it will do the same job as a high pass filter. All right, so that will definitely do that. Sidechaining and multiband compression for specific frequencies, generally low frequencies, would be a cool thing to see. Bass and kick, perhaps. Yeah. I'd like to do that in a separate show though, because yeah, I would. It would take a little bit of extra prep to get another song open that would show how to sidechain a multiband compressor. But for sure, that is a great little idea, actually. Is, to use, for example, let's find the drums here. So I've got my drums channel here. Let's say I want to compress the upright bass a little bit using a sidechain. I can do that so that the drums triggers the bass and turns down a certain frequency band using the multiband compressor. Yeah, I will do that in next Sunday's show, actually. Definitely. But that's a great question. Please remind me, Rich, that that's what we're going to do next week. Mike says he's back. We lost internet and cable in my neighborhood for about 20 minutes or so. Don't know what happened. But I apologize with Billy, but I apologize for that. No problem. Not at all. I noticed, and then Ronald says, I noticed that classical, Baroque, etc. songs include the key of the song, like Minuet in G. Was there a specific reason for that? I think it's just a convention. It's a tradition. I don't know why. I've had that question a lot myself, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not quite so sure why that exists either. Hang on just a moment. Move that channel there. Yeah, I'm not quite so sure why it's like Minuet in G or, Symphony in B flat major or whatever. I don't know why. It's just a convention. It's just a tradition because, when you release a pop song, you don't say, hey, here's my new song called What's Up, Babe in G minor. That would be weird, I think. Although maybe we all should start doing that. Maybe we should all start stating what the key of our song is. It would help those that are doing transcriptions, for sure. It'd give them a head start. But yeah, it's just one of those quirky little Western European traditions where, we say, oh, it's a minuet in G or whatever. You may be right. It might be to do with temperament. Maybe, actually. Maybe it was to do with temperament. Certainly before 16, whenever it was. I'm trying to remember the date now. For when equal temperament was kind of agreed upon. When Bach wrote his 48 Preludes and Fugues, which basically celebrates equal temperament. I can't remember the date for that. I wish I could. I would assume it has something to do with the instruments used and the tuning. Yes, probably, actually. You're probably right. I would say those probably are important factors. Simon Carpenter has his hand up. Hello, Simon. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. And Cleon is here as well. Cleon says, just wishing you a good night from Trinidad. Awesome. Trinidad. So we've got Trinidad and Australia. We've got the United States in here. We've got several different countries around the world here, which is awesome. Thanks everybody for turning out tonight, actually. This has been a good show. We currently have 20 people here, which is a little bit lower than we would normally have. We would normally peak around about 25 or 26. Now, I know that the record for our show, as you can see here, we're peaking out about 20, 21. But the record for this show is 36, I think it is. I would love us to regularly go beyond 36. Maybe 36 could become our new norm, our new average. And maybe we could start, occasionally peaking out at like 40 or 45, maybe. So if you know people who you know have never been to my channel, they've never seen my videos, they've never been to my show on Sunday, or they've never really been to Jonny, the show that Jonny and I do on Wednesday, please do get them involved. Invite them along, send them the link to the show, and send them a link to this channel, and just get them involved. We've got a few new people that are here tonight, which is great. Thank you, all my new visitors to tonight's show. I appreciate you very much. And if you guys who are brand new have questions that you'd like answered in another show, like I'm going to answer one of Rich's questions next week. We're going to look at sidechaining and sidechaining effects and sidechaining EQ and that kind of stuff. We'll look at that next week. But if you've got a particular subject in mind that you would like me to handle on a Sunday, get it into an email. So if you go down to my website at the bottom there, JonnyLipshamStudios.co.uk, at the bottom of my page there, just scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a message form. Fill that out, put the subject as Sunday Night Live, and then put in your email what you want, what kind of question you have, what subject you would like to cover for a Sunday Night Live, and we'll cover it. Like today, we took care of Mike's questions on pre-fader and post-fader sends, and cleaning up your reverbs and your delays, that kind of stuff. I kind of combined the two things together. And then next week we're going to look at Rich's question to do with sidechaining. So if you've got another question that you would like to handle the week after, we can do that for sure. And then at the end of this month, the end of the last Friday in May, will be the UK and Ireland Studio One meetup, which I will be hosting, as I have done for the last 2 years. They are really, really cool, and we do a lot of talking about Studio One. We do a lot of talking about music in general and things that we're working on, and we're just building a great little community. And also, it's a great little place where if you have, maybe things you would like to see added to Studio One, we can talk about those as well. I'm building a list of things that people within that group have suggested that they would like to see in Studio One. I work for Personas, so I regularly get those. I have meetings with the development team, and I get those requests to them, and then they kind of decide what they're going to do with those. But so long as as soon as they have them, they can look at them and decide, kind of what should go where and when in the developmental roadmap. David Anthony is in Queensland, which is awesome. I have relatives in Queensland. Queensland is great. It's a very, very nice place. Like I said, not been there before, but I would love to, and I would love to go and spend the day at the cricket as well, for either the Ashes or maybe the Big Bash. That would be great. One or t'other would be cool. So, we got about 4 minutes left. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm just scrolling back through the chat to see if there is another question. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not really seeing any. Let's see. Old School Funk and Soul says it's open air in all versions of Studio One. No, it is not. It is only in Studio One Professional. So, you folks that are using Studio One Artist, you will get Room Reverb. Room Reverb is awesome. I use it more than I use Open Air. Open Air is great, but it uses convology technology, which, if you're using them a lot, if you have a lot of instances of Open Air, it can start to tax your CPU a little bit, because it's kind of dealing with higher quality reverbs and actual samples of actual rooms, impulse responses of actual rooms. Whereas room reverb isn't. It's kind of, it's just like a very, very good standard, just ordinary reverb. And I tend to use that more than I use open air, particularly for vocals. I use room reverb to do things like, I'll use a plate reverb on a vocal, on backing vocals in particular. I'll use a plate reverb. Lead vocals, as you could see from the song that I had open, I can go back to that. The song that I had open here, my lead vocals, as you can see, they don't go to a reverb at all. They go to a delay. I don't use reverbs on my lead vocals. Never have done. Maybe, probably never will. I also have this double vocal as well, and this guy only comes in occasionally, so this one is going to a reverb. What I tend to do with reverbs, I'm not a massive fan of reverb, to be really honest. I don't use a lot of it. In this particular song, as you can see, I am using quite a bit of it because this particular song demands it. But for the most part, I like my songs to be quite dry. It's kind of my sound, really, is I quite like relatively dry sounds. But what I use reverb for is to push things further back in the mix. So, because reverbs will do that for you, they will push things further back in the mix. So, like, for example, my backing vocals here, all of these guys have room reverb on them. The horns have room reverb because I want them to go a little bit further back in the mix. And, I can have, if I want them further back in the mix, then I increase the send level. If I want them further forward in the mix, but still not right up front, then I'll only have like a little bit. Like I have here with this flute, for example. And then, that's just kind of what I use reverbs for, is for kind of that, giving that sense of depth in the mix, the three-dimensional sense of the mix. Mike says, thank you, and I'm going to go watch the answers to my questions. Have a great night. Sorry for the tech glitches. Not a problem. Can't be helped, outside of your control, my friend. And Rich says, open air for many will be a CPU hog. Yes, if you have a lower spec or even a mid-spec computer, lots of instances of open air will definitely build up a CPU load for sure. Which is why I used to have quite a low power computer for running Studio One. And I just really couldn't use open air. So I only used it maybe once. I'd have one instance of open air, and then I'd use room reverb for everything else. So if I wanted to give something, kind of special treatment, like maybe the lead vocal, maybe I'd have a plate set up on open air, and then no other channel in the whole mix would use open air at all. So it was my way of kind of making something have that little bit of extra special sauce on it that's the feature of the song. But for the most part, I don't do that. Sense of depth is created by using pre-delay. Yeah, you can certainly use the pre-delay for sure. To do the same job. But yeah, or you can, and you can do it with the amount of the amount that you're sending to the reverb as well. For sure. It'll have similar kind of effect. Alrighty. And just in case you're wondering what this song is belonging to Tomorrow from my 2016 EP of the same title. Which I'll play just a little bit of. All right, so that would be why this song has a lot of reverb in it, because it's that kind of type of song. There's a lot of space. So if this song had no reverb or very little reverb, it would be too dry, and the space would just get lost. That sense of space within the arrangement would just get lost. So that's why I did that. Mike at Music to Motion says, when you show sidechain next week, maybe you can demo how to sidechain the voice into reverb so that only the tail is heard. That's a good one. Yeah, I could certainly do that. So only the reverb is heard rather than the actual voice. Yeah, we can certainly do that. Bobby Booth says, do you use any kind of preamps? I have the Studio 1824. And I use the X-Max pre's that are in the 1824. I don't have any external preamps at all. It would be nice if I had. I would have liked to have got my hands on the Presonus Studio channel or the ADL 600 the 600 or the 700. Those would be quite nice because those preamps, they have, I think the 700 has an EQ and compressor, and I think the 600 only has EQ. I don't think it has a compressor on board. But yeah, and the pre's on those are really, really nice. So it would have been nice to be able to get my hands on one of those, but I don't have any of them, unfortunately. All right, I think we are there. We are after 1 o'clock in the morning here in Scotland, so that would be after 7 p.m. in the central time area of the United States. So we will call it a day there. Thank you very much for your excellent questions, everybody. And I will see you on Wednesday, probably on Jonny's channel, providing he's feeling better. I know he's been quite sick lately, so hopefully he's feeling better, and certainly by Wednesday hopefully he'll be fit as a fiddle, and we'll do Songwriting Simplified over on his channel. So if you've got songwriting questions, arranging questions, music theory questions, music history questions, that's the place to go and ask those kind of questions, and Jonny and I would be delighted to answer those for you. So that would be the same time, 6 p.m. Central Time, over on the Home Studio Trainer YouTube channel. If you like this show, hit the like button, please. I'd appreciate it a lot. If you have not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button right now. That would be really valuable if you did that. I would appreciate that a lot. Let me go over to my other screen here for that. So yeah, if you subscribed, great. Thank you very much for your subscription. If you have not subscribed, please do so and hit the notification bell and select all notifications. That way you get notified about this show, and you also get notified about any videos that I put out, and I'm going to be putting out more videos. There's a bunch more stuff that I'm working on that I can't really talk about at the moment, but I will have those videos out for you soon. And of course, if I post anything in the community chat section, your community post area of my channel, you'll get notified about those as well. So until then, folks, I wish everybody a very good evening. Good night.
I know I'll never send, when all habitual dalliance will finally end. Then crustiness, my friend and foe, to oblivion you will go, belonging to tomorrow, belonging to tomorrow. to paradise falls, and on all the stifling lethargy, time will now be called. Impressed the snake-eyed schmo, take a hand down, you will go, and longing to